Okay, so here we are back. I did say I'd try to finish this before November, or by November. Probably in November, because it's nearly November now. So, a bit of bad news for you guys about Ultraman Arc. There will be no reaction to the next episode or the episode after on time. There will be an episode reaction when I come back, because I'm going on holiday. I'm on holiday very soon. It's a matter of days before I fly out. It's only a week and a half. But it also means I will miss 2 reactions because I'm flying not too long before the next episode releases. So when I get home, I'll have to record a couple reactions in a row, or 3 in a row actually, because there'll be another one coming out by the time I come home. So yeah, there is that. So yeah, but at least you can have this review and hopefully another one. There should be 2 more left actually, but I just watched 6 episodes in one go. Forgive me if I sound tired, but yeah, I've been doing this before I go to bed. I thought, hey, I got a few hours to spare. Let me spend my time doing this, and yeah, hopefully I can spare another day so I can watch the last 3 episodes and do a couple reviews on that. But yeah, episode 31 is called Who Goes There? The Kaiju is Coronia. So yeah, there's an SSSP agent from South America branch called Goto, who starts acting a little weird, and I thought to myself, there's something going on here. Although I didn't think he'd be like the villain. I didn't think that. I thought he was just a little weird and a bit awkward. I didn't suspect that he was actually someone else in disguise. I probably should have seen that coming, and we've seen that so many times in Ultraman shows. I probably should have seen it coming. But yeah, the timeline was interesting. So he was 30 years old, but he had been in the SSSP for 20 years, which means he joined when he was 10 as an intern, because his dad died when he was 10 on duty. He was part of the SSSP, and he left alone. He was accepted as an intern, and that was his explanation. But yeah, he was acting strange, and that story was a bit interesting as well. In the defense force already at 10 years old. I guess to be fair, in Ultra Q there was a kid in the team, right? So maybe it's not out of the question. But it was definitely strange. He was acting strange, and he started talking about like but SSSP secrets and stuff, and they started to suspect him. They're like, this guy's acting weird. Let's look into him. Let's look into the South America branch who weren't responding. Even the team was starting to be suspicious of him at the start of the episode. And yeah, eventually, a strange plant appears. So this plant, it moves. Just realized my last recording on this camera, I didn't charge my camera, and I saw the battery low. I'm just like, wait, what? This is a big battery. I forgot to charge it. Thankfully, I have 2 spare batteries. But anyways, as I was saying, so this plant, it can control people, and it can also paralyze people. So it fires beams, and it paralyzes a couple people, including Fuji. I keep forgetting her name, so I looked down because I wrote down her name just in case I forgot. And well, I forgot again. But yeah, it turns out that this plant is actually controlling Goto. So that wasn't actually him. It was controlling his body, or at least controlling him. No, not controlling, sorry, imitating him. Yeah, not controlling, sorry, imitating him. It could disguise itself as other people. That was its main power, aside from paralyzing people with its beam from its eyes. So yeah, a pretty interesting sort of creature. Interesting design. I quite liked the idea of it. It was a little bit terrifying and also really well done. I feel like it was a really cool design for the suit as well. I think even in human size it looked pretty cool. So yeah, Hayata, he takes a sample of the plant and he gives it to I don't know why I didn't write it down. But the professor's name he can analyze, and he reveals to them what Coronia is, because there was a Coronia in South America, an Amazonian plant in South America, and it was discovered 20 years ago when Goto the kid lost his father, and it was discovered by him or his father? It was discovered by one of them. So there's something tying in there for sure. So did Coronia control him this entire time? That's another question to be asked. But yeah, Hayata takes a piece of the plant to take to the professor to try and analyze it. And you eventually get the reveal that Goto is being controlled by the plant. What I found funny was there was one particular scene, like I always mention how in shows where I feel like, should it not be obvious to the team that he is Ultraman? I've said this so many times, so many shows, because sometimes it's like seems so obvious. Obviously for us watching, it's obvious because you know who it is. But still, sometimes it seems so obvious, you're just like, oh, you what? There was one time where they're ordered to do something, and Hayata runs away. He just runs because he wants to transform. And there's two team members, I think it's Ide and Arashi, they were shouting, Hayata! Hayata! Can you not hear us? And he's literally just running away in the distance. He runs into a building, then out of the building comes Ultraman. And I'm just like, should they not at least have like an idea? Or at least like, oh, Ultraman came out of the building that Hayata ran into. That's a bit suspicious. I don't know. Just to me, it's just like they don't suspect anything. I remember there was one episode earlier in the show where Ide thought, could Hayata be Ultraman? And he asked this once at the end of one episode, and it's never been mentioned again. And I'm just like, oh. But yeah, I like to bring that up. But yeah, I didn't write anything else down. I looked at my notes because I wrote down a lot of notes for these 6 episodes. But yeah, the final fight was pretty cool, and Ultraman finished him quite quickly. So yeah, that was an enjoyable episode. I quite liked it. I thought it was a good, interesting concept of a villain to do, and I thought it was really well done. So like this is like maybe the first time, unless it was done in Ultra Q, I think it's the first time that we saw a kaiju or a monster that controlled people, I think. Possessed people. I think so. Unless it was done before, and I just forgot, because I forget a lot of things. Episode 32 is called The Endless Counterattack. The Endless Counterattack. I think I said that wrong. How do I mess up English? Kaiju. The kaiju's name is Zambala. I also, like, before I start on the review, at the start of the episode, you see, like, the team having fun, and I don't mention this enough, but I really enjoy scenes where the team are just relaxing and having fun. In a lot of my reactions to Ultraman, I have to cut that part out of the reaction because I got to keep it under 10 minutes. But there's so many scenes and shows where the team is just relaxing at the base, just having fun, just making jokes, having a weird conversation. I really enjoy that in Ultraman shows. I feel like it's a really nice thing to add, because at the end of the day, they're humans and they like to do things aside from their job. So it's kind of cool seeing characters relax in these types of shows, especially. So there's a really fun scene at the start, which I really enjoyed in episode 32, right at the start. So yeah, Hayata, it is decided, based off a game that they played at the start, that I mentioned the scene from, he has to go and get Patty. Patty's an SSSP member. I don't like saying it. It's different in Japanese. Maybe I should learn the Japanese word for it and just say that, because it sounds better. SSSP just sounds like a tongue twister. But yeah, Patty, who's also part of SSSP, but from a different branch. She's an India branch, and Hayata's told to go to India and get her back to Japan, which he does. Zambala is a kaiju that's kind of angry about construction, it seems. That's what it seems like, anyway. That's how it's perceived. I don't think they really say that, but they put emphasis on construction and all of that. And Zambala starts causing wildfires, because it's in the woods. There's wildfires. He causes earthquakes. There's a hot spring that comes up. Zambala's causing all this because it's angry. And there's a lot of storylines like this. Again, this might be the first time it's ever done, where there's construction going on, and the construction happens to be in a kaiju's home, and the kaiju fights back. We've seen the story so many times. This might be the original version. This kaiju was angry. And obviously, humans, they got to develop, they got to construct things. But in a universe like that, there's always a chance that you're in a monster's natural habitat. And in real life it happens as well. In real life, like, animals' natural habitats kind of get taken out as well for agriculture, stuff like that, construction. The difference is, in a universe like Ultraman, the creatures are huge kaiju, so these kaiju can fight back. So this is the kind of storyline that is. So it's very angry about construction, and it starts destroying things. I really like the design of Zumbler. I really like the design. I like the fins. They're like yellow, orange. They're like fire fins. They look like the colors of fire. And it's a really cool design. I don't think I've ever seen this monster before. At least if I have, I don't remember it. But Zumbler's a really cool kaiju. If he's in any other shows or movies, then let me know. If I've seen him before, then let me know, because I feel like I've forgotten this kaiju, or it's completely new to me. It's one of the two. But it's too cool a kaiju to not be there again. So I feel like it's probably been in other shows. But yeah, I really like the design. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention episode 31 as well. There were tanks taking on the kaiju. This episode as well, tanks are taking on the kaiju. There's so many Ultraman episodes in so many shows where they get a bunch of tanks to attack monsters, and it never works. And I'm sitting there like, I told you so. I told you so. Sometimes it works. Sometimes, like I've been watching Cosmos recently, and there was an episode where one guy in one tank took on Waroga, and it was a really cool fight. And I'm just like, it finally worked. There was an army of tanks. They all got destroyed, but one survived, and this one tank was a big help. If you remember, you can see that earlier. I can't remember what the episode number was, but it's 40 something, I think. But yeah, I always laugh about tanks and Ultraman shows because it never works, and tanks cost a lot of money. Obviously, it's just a fictional show, but I like to think about it like this: tanks do cost a lot of money. And every time they get used in Ultraman shows, they just get destroyed. I know it's not real, anything like that, but I like to compare it sometimes to the real world in a way. And I'm just like, they must, in Ultraman shows, in this fictional universe, they must lose a lot of money. like the defense forces of shows that build tanks, I'm just like, just build aircraft. Like they're more powerful. Yes, they can still get destroyed. Yes, they're more expensive, but in the long term, it's better to have aircraft than tanks. But yeah, I thought I'd just bring this up again because I always rant about it, and I feel like it's good to bring this up. Yeah, and also Patty helps them out in the battle. She's supposed to be on holiday, I think. Well, she's on holiday because she's from India branch. She's on holiday in Japan. But she's also SSSP, and she says that. I'm SSSP as well. And she helps Hayata in battle. Hayata's trying to get her back to the base, but they get caught up in the monster. Hayata tries to get out the car and go to get the monster, and he tells her, take the car, drive to the base. She refuses. She's stubborn, and she's an SSP member. She wants to help, so she also fires at the kaiju as well. I feel like at the end maybe she knows that he's Ultraman. Maybe, like, she doesn't say it, so we don't know for sure. But the way she acts towards the end, because at one point, like, she's always like, I want to fight. Then at some point she decides, I'll fight another way. It's okay, you go and fight. And I'm just like, did she realize something? Did she realize that Hayata's Ultraman? Because that's what it felt like. It felt like she realized. Because she went from, I want to fight to, no, it's okay, you go. I'll fight another way. And does she know? Does she know? Maybe she knows. And she could keep it a secret because she's not part of the Japan branch. So it's not like she's there every day to spill the secret. So I feel like maybe she did know. But yeah, the fight ends. It's a fairly quick fight, I think. It's a fairly quick fight. But it ends with him firing his Spacian beam. And basically he burns it. Like the beam burns it. And it doesn't get destroyed or blown up. It just dies after getting burned by the beam. And I'm just like, damn, that's a brutal death. I guess they had to take it out, but I'm just like, whoa. that's a tough way to go for any creature. But yeah, and also there was a joke at the end. Again, I mentioned already, I like scenes with the team members having fun. At the end, she makes a joke. She says, I have now seen Japan's three specialities: earthquakes, kaiju, and Ultraman. If Japan had three specialities right now, in real life, what would it be? Earthquakes, anime, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of something really cool. Because I was going to say like PlayStation, because that's from Japan, so is Nintendo. I could just say gaming, I guess. Gaming? Godzilla? Well, what are the three specialities of Japan? In real life? I feel like that's an actual saying as well. I haven't Googled it or anything, but I feel like that's an actual saying. But in the Ultraman fictional universe, that's not real, of course. It is earthquakes, kaiju, and Ultraman. I also feel like typhoons would be a Japan thing as well. Because they have typhoons there, don't they? I want to go to Japan one day. Apparently Japan's beautiful in the autumn. I want to go one day. It's expensive from England, but I feel like it'll be a fun holiday. Anyway, enough about my holidays. More about, I'm not going there don't worry. Next week I'm going somewhere else. I'm not going to Japan. This is not me saying going to Japan. I want to go there in a few years' time, but one day I want to go there. But the place I'm going this very soon, in a few days, is somewhere completely different. So don't worry about that. But I will post vlogs on that, so if you want to watch it, I'll post a community post on this channel as well. Anyway, enough about my holidays. I enjoyed episode 32 as well. Quite a brutal way for the kaiju to go, but I liked the new character. She was only in one episode, obviously. I've already forgotten her name. Patty. I wrote it down like 3 times on my phone, and I still forgot, even though it's right in front of my eyes. I really liked Patty as a character. I thought she was a really good addition, even though it's just a 1 episode thing. But it was fine. Like I really like when a show can bring in a character that you never know before. She comes in, or he comes in. It could be like anyone that's new, and they make them a great character. Like I love when they do that. I really love when because there's a lot of Ultraman shows that do this. They bring in a random character for 1 episode, and they become so important that you care about them within 10 minutes. And that's down to good storytelling and good script writing. So I really appreciate that from the makers of the shows, and this show especially with that episode. So yeah, that was an enjoyable episode. Episode 33 is called The Forbidden Words. These forbidden words are the words of a child, that alien Mephilas. I was going to say Melifas, I just had to recheck the spelling. Alien Mephilas wanted the child to say. So he was trying to make a deal with this child to give him Earth. He needed the child's authorization. There's a few kaiju in this, but only as like figures, kind of. One of them is Fuji. A giant version of Fuji turns up. She's possessed by Mephilas. It turns out it's not her. Because at the start of the episode, right, Fuji, Hayata, and the kid is called Satoru, I think. Let me just double check that. Satoru. I wrote his name down once. I feel like I should have wrote his name down more. Yeah, Satoru. Satoru. So Satoru, Hayata, and Fuji are sitting by a car. Who is Satoru anyway? Is he someone's son? Why was he there with them? Anyway. Yeah, they were just hanging out or whatever. And eventually they see a flying ship. There's a ship flying. And then alien Mephilas talks to the kid, like in his head. So you can't see Mephilas yet, but he's talking to the kid. Only he can hear Mephilas speak. And then the boat explodes in the air. And then there's a jumbo jet and 3 military aircraft that get sucked into like a mist of smoke. And I think the team thought it was an invisible tornado or something, but they were like sucked into space. And the jets were destroyed in space, but the car was in one piece. And like in the car was Fuji, Hayata, and Satoru, but they were not in the car. The car was there. The car was not destroyed. It was floating in space. Ide and Arashi went to investigate. It was floating in space, but the 3 people were missing. And they were all on Earth. They were in Mephilas's little spaceship. They were being they were kidnapped and controlled. And Mephilas wants to make a deal with this kid to authorize him to take Earth. So he doesn't want to take Earth violently. He doesn't want to attack Earth. He wants someone to give Earth up to him. Like, that's his principle, which is quite interesting. An alien invasion, but he needs your permission. Without your permission, he won't invade. That's very intriguing. And he wanted to ask an innocent child, did he think this child would be easy to manipulate? I guess maybe a child can be easy to manipulate, but I guess maybe he just thought it'd be easier to convince a child. I mean, I guess I can understand that, but still, it was an interesting decision to ask that specific child. But yeah, I was mentioned that there's different kaiju that turn up. So one's a giant Fuji, which is not actually her. So she's kidnapped. She's in his ship, but the giant Fuji is just a. It's just a. I was gonna say mirage, or it's not real, but it is real. If Mephilas tells her to attack, Mephilas will do it, and he tells her to destroy a building, and she does, and then she disappears, and then Alien Bautan appears in her place. At first, I just thought, wait, was she Alien Bautan? Was Alien Bautan disguised as her? But it wasn't like that. So Mephilas made her disappear. He made Bautan appear, Kema and Alien Zarab as well to appear. So these. Bautan, Kema, Alien Zarab, they all appeared in this episode, but Mephilas was controlling them, so it was like controlling a version of them, so not actually the original versions, but he was controlling designs of them, I guess, and they were just standing still in the city, and Mephilas said they're only going to attack if he orders them to, that he can just do what he wants if he orders them to. But he needs authorization from this kid. This kid is the one that can truly convince them. But yeah, Mephilas tries a few tactics in terms of talking to the kid. Like, he said a few things to the kid, like, I promise you a long life. I promise you can live on a planet with no accidents, with no pain, and you can live hundreds to thousands of years. I can give you eternal life. He would say all these different things and promises, even if they were true. This kid was just like, no, I will not give up Earth. And I'm just like, damn, this kid, with all these promises that would benefit him, he's still saying no. He'd be a good successor to Hayata if Hayata decided to retire from being Ultraman. I'm just saying that kid has got a good heart, even from a young age. To be fair, kids generally do, but still, like, that kid, no matter what, even though he was facing a scary alien, he did not agree. And I think that was very brave. The sort of bravery you would see from someone who's Ultraman, someone who transforms into Ultraman. So Mephilas has Fuji and Satoru, the kid, just stuck in this, like, I don't know what you call it, but they were just stuck moving like this in like zero gravity. Meanwhile, Hayata tried to transform, right? He tried to transform. He had his device. Like this, right? And he went to transform, right? And then Mephilas stopped him. He froze him. Hayata was like standing like this. He was frozen like that for most of the episode, which is really funny. Because eventually they find the ship that they're in, right? And the team go to rescue them. They come in. I think it's Ide and Arashi. They come in, right? And they find Hayata like this. He's just standing like this with the device in his hand. And they're just like, what happened to what happened to Hayata? What's going on? And I'm just, to be fair, like this time, like I normally say like, oh, should they know he's Ultraman? But like this time, they don't know what the device is, so like they can't really tell he's Ultraman anyway. But they also, when they rescue the other two, they leave him in there, and they escape, and Ultraman comes out. So that could be a clue. But I like how he's just standing there with the device in his hand, just frozen. And they walk in on him, and they're just like, what's going on here, Hayata? And then what's even funnier is, right, Hayata's still frozen, right? But he falls over. He falls over straight on the floor, still unconscious, still frozen. And him hitting the ground triggered the device, and he transformed. This guy's frozen, not even conscious, but his body falls over and the device hits the floor and he transforms into Ultraman, which is just really funny. And it was cool to see Ultraman is not affected by what he's affected by. I thought that was pretty cool. So what happens to him in human form does not seem to affect Ultraman's form, which I found pretty interesting, because that happens later on in another episode as well, when Hayata gets blinded. Then Ultraman is not blinded when he transforms. That happens in episode 35 or 36, I think. But yeah, he transforms. There's a little bit of a fight, not much of a fight then, but Ultraman when he first transforms, he speaks. And I think this is the first time he speaks in this series, I think. Because I watched most of the episodes like 5 months ago. This is only the second review in the last 4 months. But I think this is the first time actually hearing him speak. He's speaking just to Mephilas, but he says, he basically says, leave Earth. Like, I'm saying it nicely, leave Earth. A little bit of a scuffle, a little bit of a fight. They have a little bit of a fight. And Mephilas says, he said it already in the episode as well, but I forgot to mention it, but he says he wanted the spirit of Earth, and he wants someone to give it up, though. And his target was the kid to give it up, who obviously didn't give it up. But yeah, Mephilas says, I accept defeat, I give up, I'm leaving, but I swear I will return. I will come back. I don't know if that means this show or another show, but I guess we'll see Mephilas again at some point very soon, maybe in this series. I don't know. I know Zeton's in the last one. I know that. I don't know who's in the two I haven't seen, so we shall see about that. But he says he will come back and find a human that will give Earth up, which is kind of scary. I also like the narrator. So the narrator of the show sometimes says some things. Says like a message at the end, usually, or at the start. At the end, sometimes he's talking, like he normally talks about the episode, like they defeated this and like something happened, whatever. Sometimes the narrator's talking to us. He's talking to you. He's talking to me. I like what he said at the end here. So he said a few things. I didn't write it all down because I was watching. But it's kind of funny multitasking because I'm watching the show. I don't know Japanese, so obviously I'm reading the subtitles as well. Reading the subtitles, watching the show, and also writing down notes on the episode so I can review it. It's like an extreme sport. I got to concentrate the whole 25 minutes, but also I got to write notes down. So sometimes I pause it, but not too much. Only like a couple times. At the end, I didn't pause it definitely. So the narrator basically says towards the end, like, you must never become someone who will give up Earth. This is your home, something like that. And then he says, Mephilas may challenge you next, so you got to be ready. And I'm just like, okay, fair enough. I shall also say no. I'm inspired by the kid. I'm inspired by Satoru. But yeah, very good episode. A very interesting concept. I thought that was pretty good. And the narrator touch at the end was good as well. So yeah, that was another excellent episode. Episode 34. This one is called Present from the Sky, featuring Skydon. So yeah, a meteor hits Japan. And surprise, surprise, the meteor contains a monster. Who would have thought that would happen? So yeah, Skydon comes out at the crash site. I like the Skydon design. It wasn't as impressive as, who did I say? Who was the other one? Zambula. I like that one the most out of the 6 episodes I watched. But Skydon, I think, was a cool design. It looked like, from one angle, it looked like a crocodile. It looked like a weird crocodile. And it had like 2 horns like this on its head, above its nose. Like I don't know what animal has that in real life, to be honest. But it looked like a crocodile with 2 horns on its nose. And had some crocodile scales as well. It was like a giant tortoise type lizard sort of thing, with the way it walked. And it also had a shark sort of mouth. That's the best way to describe it for me. It was an interesting design, but I think it was pretty cool. And I feel like I haven't seen this monster either before, but I thought it was a pretty interesting design to do. It resembled like 4 different animals in a way, but mainly a crocodile. But this animal, which was from space obviously, it was too powerful for SSP. No matter what they tried, it just wouldn't work. And even Ultraman Hayata transforms into Ultraman 12 minutes in. And I'm just like, this never happens. Ultraman always comes in the last few minutes in this show. he never arrives at the start. This guy, it's only been 12 minutes and this guy's already here. And I'm just like, okay, now we're getting serious. And there's no way he's fighting the rest of the episode. So there'll be 2 fights, which means he'll probably lose the first one. And he kind of did. The way he lost the first one was interesting because basically the alien is too heavy. So at one point the alien gets kind of exhausted and gets on top of him. He escapes. Ultraman escapes, but his energy runs out completely. So that's unfortunate. And then the kaiju just falls asleep. So even Ultraman, he kind of lost. He lost the fight. But he lost the fight in a funny way. But that was interesting. Like, that was the first time that he didn't come last 2 minutes. So I thought that was pretty fun. But yeah, SSSB tried a few different tactics. So the first one was called Operation Auto Gyro. I like the way that this is a serious kaiju that they could not defeat and was very dangerous, and yet they found a way to make a comedic episode out of it, which I was not against. I thought it was a good way to do it. I thought it was really fun. A fun way to figure out how to beat this kaiju. It was a nice, fun episode, even though it was serious at the same time. This episode knew when to be serious and knew when to be funny. And I felt we got the funny part with these operations. So I think they tried 3 operations. If I miss another one, let me know. But Operation Auto Gyro. So there's like helicopters carrying like this big clamp like this. It's like a big round clamp. They clamp around the kaiju, right? And Ide and Hayata are flying these helicopters and they fly the kaiju away, right? And the team are celebrating, thinking, oh, we've won. It's a great. Meanwhile, Ide and Hayata are still in the sky, but they're having a drink. They're pouring some champagne or something, and then you hear just a big crash. Obviously, they didn't defeat the monster that quickly. they couldn't get it out of harm's way, out into space. The second one was Operation Rocket. So this was a big rocket that opened and fired a smaller rocket into the kaiju. It didn't really work. It went in the kaiju. The kaiju went a bit crazy, started walking around like crazy. It didn't work. So the third operation, and this one, funnily enough, actually worked, but then it went wrong for a different reason. So Operation Monster Balloonization. Operation Monster Balloonization. So so they fired a rocket with a balloon on the end of it. So they fired a balloon. They fired like an injection rocket or whatever. So they fired something at the rocket. So they tranquilized the monster. Not tranquilized, but anesthesia bomb. Just like in Cosmos. They fire anesthesia weapons with their handguns. And it works. Kaiju falls asleep. It falls over. And also the previous rocket that's still in the kaiju. It falls out when the kaiju falls over. But yeah, they pierce it with another rocket. And this rocket has a pump where they can attach it to a truck, and when the truck gets going, they can insert hydrogen. They can fill the monster internally with hydrogen, and what this would do is make it float, turn it into a round balloon and make it float. And believe it or not, this method was the best one so far. It actually worked. They filled it up with so much hydrogen that it started floating into the air, and it went up and up and up and up. And they started celebrating again. The team started celebrating, and I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe they can celebrate. The SDF, so this Defense Force, the SDF, they didn't know about the SSB's plan. So what happened? They shot at the monster. They saw this big balloon monster in the sky. They thought, you know what? Let's shoot it. So because they shot it, the hydrogen started coming out of the monster. So it was going up. Now it's going down. The plan, the silliest plan so far actually worked. Then the other Defense Force decided, you know what we're going to do? We're going to mess this up for them. Oh, I know they didn't know, but still, I'm just like, oh, I have a lot of stress watching Ultraman Cosmos because that Defense Force is so annoying. They do so many annoying things. Like, they're too aggressive as well towards kaiju, right? This Defense Force are just as annoying. And I've only seen them for like 2 minutes in this episode. I couldn't believe my eyes. Not even 2 minutes, like 2 seconds. They turn up and start shooting at it. I'm just like... It would have been funny to see him to win like that because, like, the fact that it actually worked is funny. Like, they didn't even need Ultraman sub. They just filled up hydrogen and they're just like, yep, goodbye, monster. Goodbye, kaiju. But yeah, they were having like, was having dinner or something. But Hayata was holding a spoon, right? And when he heard about the news about the thing falling down, he went to transform. And he transformed. He got his spoon, not his transform device. He went up like this. He tried to transform and just like, oh. He puts the spoon down, gets his device out, and he's ready to go. I'm just like, that was pretty funny. I read the comments after this episode because I wanted to see if people reacted to that, and people did. And one person said, I would have loved to see the reaction. I would love to hear the conversation between that, because like they are communicating. We've seen this in other shows. They don't always show it in the shows, but Ultraman does communicate with Hayata. Like, that is the thing. So when Hayata holds up a spoon, I wonder if Ultraman told him, and this is not what I'm saying, this is what someone else said in the comments, but when he's holding up a spoon, I wonder if Hayata told him, that's a spoon. No, sorry, not Hayata, sorry. I wonder if Ultraman told him, Hayata, that's a spoon, mate. That's a spoon. Get your actual device out. I feel like that would be a funny conversation to hear. This is something I got from the comments of the video, but I totally agree. It would have been a funny conversation to hear, that's for sure. But yeah, after that, it ends quite quickly. Ultraman just, as soon as he transforms, he flies into the monster when it falls down. Just straight into the monster, and the monster's destroyed. It's just like that. Nice and easy. Good episode again. These 4 episodes, very different. I liked what they did with them. I thought it was pretty cool. Another different episode is episode 35, The Monster Graveyard. This episode is featuring the kaiju Seabozu. I didn't hear it pronounced enough in the show, so I feel like I pronounced it wrong. But yeah, so they go into space, Arashi and Ide, I believe. They're a dynamic duo, these two. They're patrolling in space, and they discover this monster graveyard. So monsters that they or Ultraman banished to space or killed or whatever. And it's a big monster graveyard, so you just see monsters floating in space. Kemula is there, Antler is there, Noronga is there. These are just kaiju that they defeated previously in the show, basically. I also like the fact that I can now recognize the kaiju as well. I'm just like, I recognize it. I recognized all 3. Just like in the last episode with the alien Mephilas controlling 3 monsters. I'm just like, I recognize all 3. I'm not always good with names, but I did recognize all the designs. What I did not recognize was a 4th kaiju there. It was a skeleton-like kaiju, which also the team didn't recognize. I'm just like, okay, it's not been in the show before. It was a skeleton-looking kaiju, interesting design. I also like this design because it's October, and I feel like it'd be a really cool Halloween costume. The way it looked as well was really funny. Like a skeleton, it's like a skeleton dinosaur. And it was a really cool design. I like the design of this thing. I thought it was like, it's pretty interesting. Another kaiju I feel like I haven't seen before, but it's really cool. So yeah, Seabozu is a pretty cool kaiju. But yeah, the team talk about this, a monster graveyard, about these monsters, they're living creatures. Fuji mentioned this, living creatures. They just get attacked by humans whenever they arrive on Earth. And they started feeling bad. SSSP, everyone started feeling bad. Had to run outside because he felt bad as well, and Ultraman definitely felt regret about these things too, which we saw at the start of the episode and the narrator mentioned. The SSSP hold a kaiju funeral. A funeral for the kaiju, a Buddhist-style funeral at the headquarters, at their base where they normally plan missions in the room. I'm just like, okay, interesting. They feel bad they're doing that. There's something that links to this later on, which I'll mention when they attack the kaiju. But yeah, during this funeral, obviously they can't even have a funeral without being disturbed. So some scientists in a lab, they fire a thing called a lunar rocket, the first lunar rocket that Japan has launched in this universe. And this rocket hits C. I keep forgetting the thing's name. It hits C. Seabozu is an interesting name because it's got C in the name. I know it's a Japanese name and it's not an English name. But whenever I see C in the name, just like, it's not from the sea, it's from space. You what? I get confused by the name. But yes, Seabozu, it gets hit by this rocket and it crashes down to Earth. And Seabozu wants to be in space. He wants to be back in the monster graveyard. So it just doesn't want to be on Earth. And when this monster lands, obviously it's during the funeral, so they gotta deploy to try and intercept it and take it down. And they just had a funeral about kaiju, and their plan is to attack the new kaiju, despite the fact that it wasn't aggressive. That's the thing. It was just walking down a street at one point. Then he walked into a sunset, very depressed with sad music. I'm just like, this monster's very sad. And it's not being violent towards people unless they attack it. And yet they're attacking it. And it just wants to go back to space. And like, it's not even its fault that it's on Earth. It got shot down to come to Earth. And I'm just like, ah. So what was the point of, like, maybe not the point, but like, at the start of the episode, they talked about they felt bad. And they hosted a funeral for the kaiju they took out, even the aggressive ones. But yet when a kaiju comes down and doesn't attack them, it's not even a violent kaiju, they decide they want to attack it. Were you not feeling bad 5 minutes ago, guys? That was my perspective of that. So their plan is to go to the scientists that fired that rocket, and they asked them to get another rocket so they can fly this monster back to space. And the rocket the only rocket they got available is Lunar Rocket 2. So they got another lunar rocket, but it's for research purposes only. And that's the only one that they got left. But the professor says we have to protect Japan, and we should do it. So, yeah. The professor agrees. He puts his personal not personal beliefs, what's the word I'm looking for? He puts his personal interests and his personal research to the side so he can protect the country and protect the people, which is great, and protect Earth as well. So that's a good heart from that scientist. But yeah, the rocket launch fails. I feel like the kaiju kind of gets scared when it gets sent to space. Not sent to space, but it gets scared by the rocket or something, because it kind of knocks the rocket down. Even though until then it was like, maybe not compliant, but it wasn't being too aggressive. It seemed to be very scared about the final step. Like it didn't know what was going on, which I thought was pretty interesting. But yeah, the rocket launch fails, and then Ultraman transforms to fight Seabozu. So here's the thing, right? You don't really see the fights, and I thought, really? So like, you see like 2 seconds, and then you see a slideshow. So it's not a rolling video, it's just screenshots of the fight. It's just picture after picture after picture after picture, just still pictures of the fights, not the video. And I'm just like, why have they done that? I feel like it wasn't as fun then. It's just like, you see a fight scene in pictures. It's like reading a comic book in a TV show. I'm just like, why have they done that? What was that about? But yeah, it was apparently a long fight, according to the narrator, and it makes sense because the timer went very quickly. But yeah, Ultraman at the end of it decided to fly the monster up into the sky, but his timer was running out too fast, not enough energy, so he got up, but not up into as far as space, and then eventually it started both coming back down again, and it didn't work. So there's another time, obviously, that Ultraman transformed early, and it still didn't work out. I also like another thing about the team not knowing the Hayata's Ultraman, right? He ran outside, Ultraman had a fight, ran out of energy, crashed back down, and Hayata came back injured, and no one suspected him being Ultraman. Classic. classic Ultraman shows. But yeah, then they get this idea to dress the rocket in Ultraman colors. So this rocket is still a rocket, but it's in Ultraman colors, to kind of attract the monster in a way. So Ultraman transforms again to escort the monster. The monster does, so the first time the monster did fight back at the rocket, but the second time it doesn't really want to fight, and Ultraman says, he points and says, go that way towards the rocket. The monster's kind of reluctant. I think it's more scared about it rather than like, I think it wants to go to space. It just doesn't understand that they're trying to help it. Obviously it's kind of hard to communicate with a monster, but monster didn't really understand what was going on, even though they were trying to help it. So Ultraman was trying to convince the monster to go, even though it was clearly terrified and didn't even want to fight. It wasn't even aggressive. But yeah, eventually Ultraman escorts the monster to the rocket, and the rocket flies the monster up into the sky, into space, and it's back at peace in the monster graveyard. And the fact that it wasn't on Earth before suggests that it was on another planet and it got banished from that planet, which implies there's higher powers on other planets, which is kind of interesting. That's a nice concept. But once again, good episode, interesting, and another cool kaiju design. I really enjoyed that. And finally, episode 36. Don't shoot Arashi, this one is called, because this one is partly about not following orders. And Arashi decided to shoot when he was told not to shoot. So yeah, the kaiju in this is called Zaragas, which again is a cool kaiju, a very aggressive kaiju, a cool design. I'm pretty sure I've seen this one before somewhere else in other shows, but really cool kaiju. I really liked it. Maybe the best one actually of the 6 episodes, to be fair. Coming to think of it, at the start of the episode, the sky starts cracking, but it's not the sky. It's just they're in this big dome roof. And there's this facility, there's this building for kids, I think, some sort of kids museum or whatever, or a kids school. I can't remember what it was. It's some sort of kids facility, but it was surrounded by this big dome, which looked like the sky. It's like a fake little town. And I was just like, why is the sky breaking? Oh no, that's not the sky. That's the roof. It just looked like the sky. But yeah, there's this beam that fires at them. That fires at Arashi, Ide, and a couple other people, and it temporarily blinds people. So it fires at people and they get temporarily blinded. So it is a pretty powerful monster. So the team has developed a new gun called the QX gun, a very powerful gun that attacks the monster's nerves in their brain or something like that. That sort of thing. But yeah, they battle Zaragas. Not with the gun yet, but they battle Zaragas with their aircraft and jets. And they managed to defeat it temporarily. I'm pretty sure they managed to kill it as well. But this monster works differently. So this monster, when you fight it, it becomes angrier and more aggressive. So this monster, it kind of died, then part of its skin fell off. I guess it was shedding skin or whatever. And it transforms into a slightly different, new, more aggressive design as well. And it becomes more aggressive and I think stronger as well, but mainly more aggressive. It becomes more ruthless and aggressive when you attack it. So it's one of those crazy monsters. So very hard to beat. So the SSP is ordered to stand down. So normally it's the Cap giving orders. The people above Cap are saying stand down. Unless you can kill it with one shot, is what the officer said. Unless you can kill it with one shot, we recommend you don't attack it because we can't risk it becoming even more violent. And that makes sense. It does make sense. It's a fair order, I think, even though the team disagrees, including Arashi, Ide, and a couple others. They do disagree with the decision, but the captain says these are the orders from upstairs. We have to follow the orders. You know, and it makes sense. It's technically like a military sort of position, so you have to follow orders. Like that's just important. It's very important. So it's completely understandable. It's completely understandable why that order would come down, because that's clearly a monster that cannot be defeated by attacking it just simply, unless you have the right weapon, which turns out to be the QX gun, which is used later on. But yeah, they're ordered not to attack this monster under no circumstances. So there's one point where the monster comes back to the facility and they got to go in to the facility, into the dome, to rescue some children. And then they get in trouble. So the children and the children and Hayata, so Hayata and Arashi go in to rescue the children. Hayata rescuing children, he gets knocked out. So do the kids. So they all get blinded, which is quite sad, but it's temporary blindness. It's not permanent. It still does damage, but it's not permanent. You get your eyesight back again. You'll see again at some point. But Arashi was defending them, and he had the QX gun, and he was ordered not to shoot with it, shoot the monster under no circumstance. But he had the QX gun. Hayata and the kids were behind him, knocked to the ground, blinded. In his eyes, he had to shoot, and he did. I think it was fair to shoot in that situation. He shot the monster in the head. It didn't take the monster down. It did something, but it didn't take the monster down. But at the end of the day, he disobeyed an order. And the captain said he understood the circumstance. He understood why he shot him, but he still disobeyed a direct order. So Cap suspends Arashi. No chill at all. Cap, who's friends with Arashi and all of them, he's very adamant on following orders, and Arashi went against orders, so he suspended Arashi. And then Arashi decides, you know what? I'm suspended. I'm not acting as SSP member anymore. I'm acting as myself, independently. Somehow he still had the QX gun. He wasn't confiscated or anything. He still had the QX gun. He decided, he went in a jet. He took a jet. He decided, I'm going to take this on myself, as myself. I'm suspended. I'm not under orders anymore. That's basically his attitude, which was quite interesting. Like, he really felt that this weapon was the key, and it kind of was. It did help. It did help in the end, but still, he disobeyed orders, got suspended, and decided to continue disobeying orders. And with the logic of that, he was acting by himself, as he wasn't part of the team technically at that time, temporarily. But yeah, they're in this hospital, right? So Hayata and the kids are in this hospital, and they're all blinded. Arashi goes in to talk to them and everything, and he's very upset. So because of this, because he's upset about this, that's when he goes in the jet with the weapon. But yeah, Hayata decides to get out of his bed, even though he's blind. The nurses tell him to stay in your room, stay in your room. He's just like, no, I have to go, I have to help them. He runs away up to the roof of the hospital while he's still blind, and he transforms into Ultraman. Ultraman is not blind. I mentioned this in the previous. I mentioned this in this video previously about Hayata having an injury and not affecting, not injury. Sorry, he was frozen by Mephilas, and even though he was frozen unconscious, Ultraman was not affected by that. In the same way, Hayata was blind temporarily. He was still blind. He transformed. Ultraman was not blind. Although in the fight, so there was this fight happening, obviously, between Ultraman and, I forgot the name already, Zaragas. Ultraman versus Zaragas, having this really cool fight. Eventually, Ultraman gets blinded partially by Zaragas, so he can kind of see, but it's very blurry, and he might as well be blind because it's not helping. He can hardly see. He's just got to fight with his senses. I thought that was pretty cool to see because, you know, normally when aliens use their powers, they use it on people, on humans, possessive powers, or just powers generally that, you know, cause something to humans. They normally try it on humans, but when they try on Ultraman, they don't really do that. Actually, well, I say when they try it, they don't try on Ultraman. That's the thing in these shows. It was interesting to see the angle of a kaiju or an alien trying it with Ultraman instead of a human. And he temporarily blinded him, but Arashi, arriving in the jet, helped Ultraman out, saved Ultraman by firing the weapon from his jet window with the QX gun, and it managed to distort the monster enough, and Ultraman finished it off with his spatium beam. So it wasn't one shot, but it worked. The gun worked, it helped, and it saved Ultraman. Ultraman saved him, and yeah, it worked in the end. But obviously, he still disobeyed orders, so he went back in the team at the end, very last scene, and he said he's sorry, and he said he was pleading and everything. And Cap says, repeat number 4. I should have written it down. He said, repeat number 4 of the code or something of the SSSP. So it ends with Arashi repeating, and I copied the subtitles because he repeated it like 4 times. SSSP member will always obey orders, act on orders. I said augurs. SSSP will always obey orders, act on orders, and fulfill their directive. And he was very emotional. He was repeating this constantly. The captain said, repeat it until you're satisfied. He kept repeating it, Arashi, and the episode ends while he's still repeating it. So who knows how many times he said it. Maybe he's still going in 2024, who knows. But yeah, an SSP member will always obey orders, act on orders, and fulfill the directive. That is what he had to keep repeating as a punishment. But yeah, I guess he learned his lesson. And to be fair, him disobeying orders still helped defeat this monster. So it wasn't an entirely bad thing. Like, sometimes being a good soldier and being a good man is not always the same thing. It's not always the same thing. A good soldier and a good man, there's differences. Sometimes disobeying orders is the right thing to do. sometimes. There are some circumstances like this even in real life. And there are some times where obeying orders is the wrong thing to do, for sure. So, yeah, you know, sometimes, you know, a good soldier and a good man can be two different things. Sometimes it's the same thing, sometimes it's two different things. In this case, I guess it was two different things. But yeah, that was a good episode, and I really enjoyed that. So yeah, that was 6 episodes. I don't know how long this review is going to be, because I kept stopping the camera, because it's easier for me to edit if I stop the camera after each episode review, or somewhere close, so then I can edit it easier and it takes less time. But I think I spent a little while recording that, so it's probably quite a heavy video, but I enjoyed watching that, and I enjoy making these reviews. And hopefully before I fly, I can do the other 2 reviews, and I'll probably schedule them for like a couple days. Maybe like, if I do get to do them, you should see at least one next week and one the week after, I guess. I guess while I'm gone, at least you have more content each week. So it's still going to be one Cosmos reaction per week, because that's all going to be scheduled in a specific date order. That's going to be different. But yeah, you should see these reviews, hopefully. If I do it before I leave, it's going to be tight, because I got other videos to record. So we'll see. This is your boy Davidoff. Please like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a good day, and goodbye.
Let's take it slow. Where you go, I go too. And if you hit the bottom, I'm going down with you. Let's take it slow. Who cares where we gotta be? You know you'll have a good time wherever you're with me. Let's take it